The eyes smile tenderly. Don't you know? Still in each fool's dreams are. Oh, I see. I know the road. I say the road leads back to you. Oh.
players from diverse markets and diverse economies. And we want to ask, Lord, that as we go through the agenda, which is very important and critical to the sustenance of our customer delivery and the things that we do as entities in various aspects of this country, that you help us, Lord, to thoroughly address the agenda that is before us in a way that will be able to be beneficial to all of us who are here. We want to thank you for all the people who have made time to come and to be part of this forum. We ask, Lord, that you help us to just glorify you in everything we will do here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So once again, welcome. And we are here today on behalf of the entities we represent, for the companies and organizations and institutions we work for. This is a forum that brings together those who work in the supply chain and procurement sides of business. And it is a forum that has been arranged by Liaison Group. Liaison Group is a non-banking financial services institution that handles risk and management of insurance. We also do healthcare administration. We also do pensions administration. We are also investments advisors. And so we are glad to be here with you. And this forum will be concentrating on ensuring that we give you an opportunity to further your commitment to your stakeholders in the issues of supply chain and procurement. And so we'll have various speakers come to just share their thoughts and wisdom with us. We'll also open it up for an opportunity for us to engage, make comments, observations, ask questions, explore the ways we can improve the market and the practice of supply chain and procurement. We're very honored and proud to be part of this conversation. What we seek to do as Liaison Group from time to time is to give an opportunity to entities that we work with and collaborate with to also showcase what it is that they do. So we are only here as the conductors of an orchestra, and we are hoping that the very best of what you have in your own institutions will come to the fore as we give you an opportunity to have this discussion. So just geography quickly, for those of you who are new to Serena, I see Julius Kideka somewhere. Welcome to Serena for the first time. Yes, thank you very much. Washrooms will be to your left as you come out from this door, and also to your right. Then we are also hoping and praying that we will have a little bit of meeting etiquette. So I'm rather happy to see that we more or less don't have the usual laptops popping up in most desks. So let's keep it that way. Let's keep our phones at a bare minimum interaction so that we can give our very utmost concentration to the proceedings of today. I would also like to recognize in our midst institutions that have come to partner with us in this, and some of them will be represented by the ones who will be making comments during this forum. I want to recognize a representative for the Ministry of Health. I want to recognize the chairman from the Kenya Institute of Supplies Management. I want to recognize representation from Trademark East Africa, UBA, Kenya News Agency, National Bank of Kenya, Kenya National Library Service, Kenya Kazi, also known as KK Security, Oxygen, Konza, Mask, and there's also a very large cartel which I have tried to break up because they were behaving like they want to sit together. And that's the cartel called Liaison. So if you're called Liaison and you're seated next to somebody from Liaison, I'm breaking up that cartel. Please find another table where you can mingle freely with our guests. But I'm hoping that we will have a very productive session, and with the best of the guidance from the people who will be speaking, we will have a productive session. So thank you very much. We want to begin by inviting our very first speaker, and it is my honor to ask to the podium the Group Managing Director of Liaison Group, Mr. Tom Mulwa, to come and make his remarks. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Michael. I did not know whether that our head of pension has got a night job as a bishop and a conductor of baby showers and some night activities of that nature. So, yeah, we are full of talent at Liaison Group. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You will allow me to recognize the presence of Dr. Nancy Njeru. Nancy is here representing the CS of Health. We've been lucky in this country that we've got a cabinet full of professionals, and Honorable Susan Nakumicha is one of you. She's a professional in the supply chain management. She was supposed to be here with us this morning, but duty called that she had to go to Seoul with the president, and she's heavily represented here by Nancy. Nancy, welcome. We are very, very happy to have you this morning. I'm also very happy to have Mr. John Karani. John is the national chairman of the supply chain management. You know, he's your leader. He's one of you, and we are going to have an engagement involving the professionals in supply chain management, and we could not have really a better guest than John. We are also happy to have Rodney Masaya here. Rodney works for Trademark East Africa. Those of you who remember Trademark East Africa, for very many years has been a pioneer and a facilitator and an employer in supply chain management. Very well funded by DFIs, and Rodney is here to share with us their experiences, and we are going to pick bank from his knowledge in that field. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very happy as Liaison Group to have you here this morning, members of Supply Chain Management, KISIM, members of the media, part of the Liaison Group staff with us here. And this is really basically going to be a peer engagement forum, and we are looking forward for a very, very bright morning, very thought-provoking moment, just to discuss the emerging issues in the supply chain system in this country, in Africa, and globally at large. So, like Michael Mitao has mentioned, Liaison Group has been around for the last 40 years. We are just as old as the supply chain management itself. I was checking around, and sometime in 1978 is when the first paper on supply chain management was issued by the then government. By way of, it was looking like a memo, you know, part of the government scripts. But over time, this career has evolved, and in around 2007, the first act of parliament was passed in supply chain management. You'll correct me if I've got my data wrong. But it was not until 2015 when the act as we know it came to light with an authority and with a dispute resolution mechanism. Now, Kenya has got one of the best laws in procurement, and we've been first in many things in this country. I thought you would clap. So, at Liaison Group, we are very, very proud to be engaging with a career of supply chain management. And why so? Somebody mentioned to me that those in insurance are not very proud of the profession. But at Liaison Group we are, because we do it very differently. But somebody also mentioned to me that those in the police service are not also very proud of the career, but when you are in trouble, you actually run to the police station. But somebody also mentioned to me that sometimes they want to know a procurement officer, especially when the wallet looks like a little bit low. And I wondered, really, is that the culture, John, you want you want to showcase? Is it really a good culture to be associated with a career which sometimes has negative connotations. And we are very proud because KISIM, since 2007, you've come out very strongly to profile a culture and a profession which is to be admired. So at Liaison Group, in our risk insurance business, we do something called EAT waiving. We've developed a tool for working on insurance matters with this kind of diagram, which we call a heat wave. So on the right side, where the heat is strong, where it's almost burning, it's where the convergence between the likelihood and the impact is measured. So if the likelihood is very high and the impact is very high, then there is likely to be fire. And that is what we call the hot risk. That risk must be managed, either by transferring it to insurance or managing it scientifically. Now, in the middle there, where the likelihood is just moderate and the impact is also moderate, then you could employ some moderate risk management strategies or techniques. And then on the left side, where it's green, it is a good time. So in the last 5 years, we've been trying to map out professionals and fields in our businesses, looking from leadership, for example. Is leadership in the red risk or is it in the green risk? Governance matters. Finance matters. Working capital matters. Human resource, supply chain, marketing, branding, communication, customer experience, and reputation. So over time, we've been seeing that the supply chain as a field and as a field of expertise is tending to drift towards the red side. Why so? Is it because we don't have enough skill? Or is it because there are other geopolitics and weather issues? Or is it because businesses are getting a lot of tension to the extent that they have started to focus more on supply chain? And because we didn't have answers, as a team we thought, let's have a meeting with professionals in that field so that we can discuss what are these challenges facing the supply chain as a profession, as a very important cog in our business, as a very important cog in our political arena, as a very important cog in our livelihood. And that's what the output of this conversation came to. We decided, let's have a breakfast, let's call John and his people, let's start to discuss and see why is it that we must now start to focus a lot on this career. In the yesteryears, there was a lot of focus, and parents would actually look into the eyes of their children and request and persuade them either to be lawyers, to be doctors, to be accountants, to be actuarial sciences like Michael Mitau. But lately, we are seeing some pressure that, look, you need to get into more sophisticated fields like supply chain management. So we started to think that, look, this is a career for the future. And because what we are seeing is that unless you preserve the value, either in government or in business, unless you preserve the value by having very efficient and transparent and innovative ways of sourcing, then your business could be exposed in a very big way to some risks which sometimes are not insurable. So I tried to check the background, and I realized even our Kenya Constitution has actually laid a lot of emphasis on the matters procurement. Chapter 227 of our Constitution actually addresses matters procurement. There are very few other careers which have been directly addressed by our Kenyan Constitution. So that goes to tell you how important this profession has become in our way of life. And I was looking at it, and I saw that in sourcing, we must be fair, we must be equitable, we must be transparent, we must be competitive, we must be cost efficient. And I cross-checked that with the values you have at KISIM, and I realized you have actually embedded your values into this, which goes to show the extent to which, John and your team, you've actually taken this issue very seriously. But on the other side, the lawyers in the House are smiling because now they can find a basis of appeals and disputes when you don't procure in their favor, so to speak. So these are heavy, it's a very heavy topic. And I'm very, very happy that we could find an opportunity like this to engage on that, on these particular matters of procurement. But the question which begs is, from COVID, we started to realize that procurement was most disrupted because the career was more driven manually. You had to have a procurement committee, 2, 3, 5 copies of tender documents. And the fact that you could not meet as a committee, John and Tim, maybe you will tell us how you effectively adhered to Chapter 227 of the Constitution in the circumstances. But we also realized that the disruption of COVID made it very difficult to source internationally. So we also would like to see and have a conversation with Rodney and Nancy and myself and the other team, the teams in the House, on how then did we address that. Now what is very interesting is that because of technology, and I've been reminded by the guys of Z generation, and I see some of them here, that looks like COVID has propelled us to the 5th industrial revolution. And for those who understand a little bit of technology, the 5th industrial revolution is talking about robotics, it talks about AI, it talks about big data, it talks about what else, Michael, does the 5th industrial generation talk about? You know, so we are starting to think that COVID may have pushed us further to the 5th industrial revolution. So how is the procurement and supply chain responding to that push? Is it going to create the necessary trust, for example? Because I think trust is the currency which, in my view, is invaluable. And we've been praying in the insurance business that we can generate enough trust that people and consumers will trust insurance professionals. We've been praying that the public will trust the police. And we're also praying that the public and consumers will trust more the supply chain and procurement officers. So is technology going to be the gold-sent agent to generate the trust we are looking for? I think, in my view, it is going to be. I think technology is going to be the solution. Technology is going to be generating the necessary trust. So the conversation we are going to have today is really, how is it that we can employ technology to generate the relevant trust? Is it possible to kill, John, procurement committees and procure scientifically using technology? Maybe that time we may have a lot of trust that I don't have to know anybody. All I need to know is to do is to trust the machine. Fill in data, fill in my proposal, and the output which comes out will favor me if I'm competitive. And that way I generate the desired trust. Now we have Nancy here from the Ministry of Health. They've got a fair share of trust issues in the last few days. And not days really, many years. I think the Ministry of Trust has had the largest share of conversations around trust in procurement. Maybe because they are biggest consumer. Maybe because health is very important to us. Maybe we take health so seriously that we concentrate more at looking at KEPSA. You know, these are conversations which are thought-provoking, and I am happy that we could have this conversation to deal with them. So I was asked by Michael just to set the stage and have this open conversation around it. But it will not be fair if I don't mention to you, ladies and gentlemen, that at Liaison we also have a pension administration business. We do trust matters pension a lot, more than we trust risk and insurance. But we also have a health administration business, and that's why the Ministry of Health is very close to Liaison Group, because one of our biggest product lines is healthcare administration. So Julius is here with his battalion, and I'm sure, Nancy, you are not going to lack support. We have in-house care managers, medics, who will be able to participate in that conversation. They actually belong to your side. When they are in our business, they belong to the health side. But we also have an investment advisory business, and we, as a Liaison Group, we are advising on matters of affordable housing. I'm currently steering that committee nationally for affordable housing and infrastructural development, using insurance, pension, SACCOs, and all our non-banking financial institutions to see how we can generate that sector and create an impetus in that sector away from our years of international support in terms of borrowing. So as a business, we do have the 4 phases. So we've got a big pool of knowledge and skill to cover this area of supply chain management. But of course, looking around here, we have many of our clients who we have this opportunity to engage in an informal arrangement like this, where we are not conversing for a contract, where we are just facing each other and discussing matters which can change this nation. So KISIM has profiled as one of the most professional institutions. Congratulations on your new headquarters on Gong Road. It starts with physical presence. So we are very, very proud, John, to be joining you. And with those few remarks, John, if you may come and talk to your people before we take the stage. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I think we must give an MD an honorary member for KISIM now at this rate. But it's true, we are all supply chain professionals in one way or another, whether we like it or not. We are, by necessity, supply chain professionals. And I like what you talked about, what COVID did to us in supply chain. It actually thrust supply chain as a profession into the epicenter of action. And what I've been challenging our people is that, are we ready to take the center stage from the back room where we're doing just compliance issues, order chasing? We now have to be on the front line where we are called upon to be more agile, more flexible in this era of VUCA, as it were. And I think supply chain was the one which was tested to the core. We had to show up on the table to really prove our value. So in a sense, it was a blessing in disguise, because it told people that we need supply chain after all. Everything revolves around supply chain. When overnight the containers triple in prices, or the Suez Canal gets clogged, all these things that happen, you have to be very quick and agile to create other sources of supply chain, or sources, for instance, for internal capacity building. So all these are the things that make supply chain a very exciting field, a very dynamic field. So my name is John Karani. If you can put up my slides. I grew up in a place, I've worked most of my life in Coca-Cola, where we do PowerPoint all the time. Almost death by PowerPoint. So my name is John Karani. My background is actually supply chain through and through. Although I did, my first degree was in economics, my first job was in Kenya Meat Commission. And they told me, you're coming to do planning and strategy. After a short while, they decided there is absolutely no business in planning. Can you do this thing called procurement? It was new at that time in the 90s. So I went to school. That time there was nothing called supply chain in Kenya. So I went and did CIPS, Chartered Institute of Supply Chain. And that's, I always say, supply chain happened to me. I didn't choose it, it chose me. I'm an economist by training, but it turned out to be a blessing, really. It's a very dynamic field. Supply chain is the fastest growing career. I don't regret it. Over 30 years now in supply chain. After slaughtering the cow in Kenya Meat Commission a bit, I felt a bit guilty. I come from the cow rearing community, so I went to milk the cow at KCC, from killing it, slaughtering to milking it. Before moving on to another arena, I went to breweries Diageo that time. And being a man of faith, my kids kept asking me, "Daddy, you tell us, beer is bad, but you're working in breweries." So after a short while, I felt guilty again and moved to to treat the problems that had caused in drunkenness, and went to GlaxoSmithKline, GSK. The last place I really spent most of my time was in Coca-Cola Africa. So a little bit of background. I keep saying this supply chain has been a real mission for me. I always tell people, don't choose supply chain for the wrong reasons. Because this joke they had the other day about children lining up to do courses in university. And they were asking them, they checked the lines. The longest line was which one? You can guess. I like what my Kamba friends, they call him Procurement. No, this sorry, on MD, Procurement. So that was the reason you ask the kids, why are you going to register for supply chain? By the way, we have changed from procurement to supply chain, and I will tell you why in a short while. Procurement is just a piece of supply chain. So the holistic chain from logistics, clearing and forwarding, I must tell you, that's how I got to know Liaison Group when I was doing Coca-Cola work. I only know that these are the likes of pre-shipment inspection company. I didn't know you do many other things. So I'm glad that you talked about those other things. So I lost my trend of thought. Let's go to my presentation. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey in Kisum, and I've remembered why I wanted to say it's important to ask your children, and I like what you're saying, why do you want to do supply chain? Don't do supply chain just because you think that's where you want to make quick bucks. That's the wrong motive. That is a disaster waiting to happen. In a very short while, that child, that son of yours will probably be in jail or doing the wrong things, because when the motive is wrong, then they are headed to disaster. So the meeting I had now when I was just delayed here is how do we go to universities and start partnering with universities at a very early stage to mentor the young guys to decide why are they doing supply chain. You must do supply chain because you believe it's a calling. You believe it's the right thing to do. You believe you can add value, not because you think you can make quick bucks. So that, if you can get them right there, as they say, from the fork to the table, how can you make sure from the place where they are being cooked, the raw material is right? They're choosing supply chain for the right reasons and not because they think that's where they're going to make quick money. It's been 3 years. Kisum, thank you so much, Bwana Mulwa. The supply chain is new in this country. It's fairly new. The actual act that forms the profession came into being in 2007. So that's about 15 years ago. But in reality, the full operationalization of what we call the Supplies Practitioners Act happened in 2020. Because that period, the interim period between 2007 and 2020, there was an interim council. And in a sense, they were limited in what they could do as supply chain leaders. So they were, in that case, not able to fully operationalize the full mandate of the SPMA. And it was only in 2020 when we came into office through an elective process that we started fully implementing the SPMA in its fullness. So let me now come to our journey towards, I hope I'll speak to the topics I was given, but I thought let me narrow it down to professionalism. If you can keep clicking, I'll not take too long. I'm also here to talk to my members, to know your institution, and to talk to our stakeholders. Because what I keep saying, we have to pitch ourselves beyond our cronies. Supply chain cuts across all sectors, all spheres. And the place it starts is in the boardroom. And I'll be talking about that just now. Go to the next one. So just a quote. That's what KISM is. Yeah, it's okay. Back, stick here. Yeah. And so that's what KISM is. We are a body that's supplied through an act of parliament. And we are two-in-one. Two-in-one in the sense that we have the examination body, KISEP, which is our body that's charged with conducting examinations for supplies. So that's the certification body. I'm happy to say that when we came into office, 2020, that's when we fully operationalized KISEP. Because that, to me, is a chain link that links to the universities. A professional is made up of 3 components. First, academic qualification. That does not make you a professional. This is just the I grew up in the mathematics of Carrie Francis when you had a sufficient equation and necessary equation. So the sufficient equation, necessary is you must have a degree. Sufficient for you to become a professional is what? Professional certification. And then the third one, finally, you must be a member of a professional body. How many members are here? KISM members. Wow, hiyo ni kura mingi. We'll have to kutana nyuma attend. We need to have a chat. So that is and then our body itself as KISM, of course, is the regulator of the profession, registering, licensing, disciplining. I don't like the word disciplining because it has a negative connotation. And because I come from the world of faith, I say discipling. We disciple people on the right thing to do. So I'll go quickly. So that's our 2 bodies. So, yeah, next one. Yeah. This slide is very important, especially to map the journey of where we have come from. As not just in Kenya, but globally, supply chain has come from being a very transaction-driven. In fact, if you go a bit further, I know this is just a pictorial. You'll remember barter trade. We grew up in barter trade season. And evolving now. No, my friend is going too fast. What's happening? I know you want to go to business strategy quickly. But coming from transaction-driven to focusing on what we call efficiency, price. But where we must go to, and I really, my biggest passion is how can supply chain have a seat in the boardroom? How can we become entrepreneurial as supply chain professionals? How can we become, more importantly, business-driven? So that you don't even need to fight for a seat at the table. You earn a seat at the table because of what you bring to the table. You bring strategic thinking. You know, one of the things we fight for, and I tell my members, I'll fight for you to have a seat at the table, but you got to show up at the table. You got to prove your mettle by what you bring on the table. You know, it's one thing to have a seat at the table, but when you are not able to contribute, are you able to maintain that seat? So supply chain has been evolving over the years. It's good to give this, it's important to get this history because we are not there yet. We are not where business strategy driven is. We are still probably around price. You know, it always frustrates me when people go look for 3 quotations and that's it, take the lowest. That's not supply chain. That is really procurement. So, but that's by, sorry about that. It is really what you call being very, very transaction driven. So we've got to move to where we really are strategic driven, and supply chain has the full potential for impacting the whole chain of business. That's why it's called a chain, and that chain only breaks at the weakest link. Next one, please. So where have we come from? And I hope this speaks to that aspect of evolution of supply chain in Kenya. We came, I don't know, many of you may remember Crown Agents, a British company that was here for very long, and that was a buying agent for the government for a very long time, until when our own PPADA that our CEO talked about came into force in around 2015. It started much earlier, 2005, but the real action of PPDA came in place in 2015 actually, and it's after that that we now continued evolving. The World Bank has helped us a lot to support that. For the longest time, supply chain was a small piece of department in finance. And I have nothing against our finance brethren, but you cannot be a finance person and then you also oversee overseas supply chain. That's a conflict happening right there. So you've got to separate that, and that's been my fight for a long time. Supply chain must be fully independent department as a directorate in the company, reporting to the CEO directly. It's important to have it at that level, pitching it, so that it's got the full visibility and the full function. So it's important to empower it. Next one, so I don't take too long. So I keep saying this success is not an end to itself. It's a journey. Keep going. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So when we came to KISM in 20, thank you so much, Bwana CEO. That's indeed our towers. We're blessed. This was our heritage that we inherited. But I always say this. It's one thing, sorry for the ladies inside here. It's good to have a beautiful lady externally, but you've got to see what's inside. What makes a lady is what? The heart, isn't it? Not just the physical beauty. Even a man also, kindness. So this building was not, it was a good heritage, but the key thing was now, how do we equip it with the requisite superstructure, software, to make it a truly member-driven, functional building. And that's been our journey for the last 3 years. We have this heritage, this beautiful edifice along Gong Road, but how do we make it a true center of supply chain excellence? I'm happy to say that now we have 4 bodies right there that are all supply chain driven. Our PPRA, which is a regulatory body, the PPRB, our certification body, KISM, and ourselves. So, fully fledged center of supply chain excellence. We hope to attract more tenants there. Anybody? We are looking for tenants, by the way. I'm now doing what Bwana CEO was saying, marketing the products. I want to market KISM Towers as a grade A building for very good feasibility. So we came into place when there was no strategic plan, or actually had been, and it was right at the beginning of COVID. So everything you thought about strategic plan, you throw it through the window and create a new plan in recognition of the dynamism that we are living in, the VUCA environment that we are living in. You've got to calibrate how you do training, for instance, because you are told no hotel trainings, and you've just come into office, 2020 March. COVID is also at the same time, right there, escorting us in. So we have to become more technology savvy, leverage technology to start offering trainings, capacity building. So I call it capacity building because training is the wrong word, because if you are not learning, you are dying. And I would like to ask Bwana CEO, always support your members to come for our capacity building programs. It's the only way for them to remain relevant and to add value to the institution. We've had to also do, thank you. Now go to the next one. So this is in a snapshot our strategic plan, and I think Bwana Mulo referred to this. I hope you can see the print. Just keep going. It's a one slide that summarizes our strategic plan. Leave it right there. And that's been when we came into office. What should be our mission, our vision? Our vision is really born out of the challenges we've seen that has plagued the supply chain profession, the negative narrative that you talked about, the historical injustice we've suffered. Supply chain, I'm not here to defend ourselves, but I want to say many times we suffer for the mistakes of other people. And especially because we are almost like at the receiving end. Because I always say supply chain is collegial in nature. It's not done by one man or one woman show. There's so many players in that supply chain. How can we therefore ensure that everybody is held accountable for the role that they play, especially the users, the technical people? Supply chain is just a facilitator of that process, and that chain breaks at the weakest link. This idea, therefore, of saying corruption, so that's been our mission. How can we ensure we raise empowered, competent, and ethical supply chain practitioners? Those ones are very selectively chosen because these are the pain points we have. We have been called paper pushers or order chasers. We've been called not competent. We've been accused of ethical dilemma. So that has been we said, instead of going to fight this battle up front, can we go back to our back office and talk about what can we do to strengthen ourselves, to strengthen our members, to empower our members so that you actually earn your seat at the table. And that has been the journey for the last 3 years, to create to change the narrative, but by going back to the drawing board and changing that narrative from within. After this, now we're able to come out here and say, by the way, we're not who you say. I do not deny, like in any other profession, there will always be one or two rotten apples. But that is never an excuse to blame a whole profession. Just like lawyers and accountants, all of us have those rotten apples. Our job is to separate the wheat from the chaff and ensure that we hold everybody accountable. And I'll talk about that briefly. So that's our vision. Our mission indeed remains train, register, license, discipline, regulate the supply chain profession. Our values, like when a CEO talked about, integrity, accountability, fairness, transparency, governance, professionalism, inclusivity, all out of the Constitution, actually. At the center right there is what I was going to talk very briefly. As you slide the next slide, please. Just click. All right. I wanted to talk about this. This is the beginning. After you leave the university, and when we were in the university, this is what I encourage those of you who have younger siblings, let them not wait until they leave university to register for CPSPK. This is our own world-class curriculum now. We did, when we were growing, there was no KISEP or CPSPK, so we all did CIPS, the UK qualification that most of us in supply chain do. And I realized that we've got to have our own homegrown, world-class in the sense of content, but local in terms of contextualization. So it's one, I come from the world of Coca-Cola. I tell you again, we always were taught to think globally, but do what? Act locally. But this curriculum now enables you to do two things. You are both globally relevant and locally relevant. Because you operate here, you live here. And so we have had a very long discussion with our friends in the UK, which is CIPS, to say, can we have a mutual recognition arrangement? So to Eshimiane. And they actually appreciated our curriculum, world class. So today I'm happy to say, with CPSPK, you can actually get a job in the UK. I can tell you that, and vice versa. So it was an important thing, and getting our own local accreditation from KNQA and world-class global recognition makes it really a world-class one. We got people now coming in from across the country, across Africa. They are seeing, why do they need to pay UK pounds, which is now almost 200, and you can use Kenya shillings to get a local qualification, which is world-class. So we are promoting that regionally. So I want to make sure we start here at home. Charity begins at home. Encourage you, if you have younger siblings, any friends, don't need to pay for CIPS or CILT. We are here. We can give you a world-class qualification. That's all. So that's why I told you, from degree, you can actually do, those children of yours or those sisters and brothers who are in university can be encouraged. By the time you leave the university, you should be having your degree and your what? Diploma in CPSPK. You are, I don't want to call it employable, but you are marketable. So we may not have the jobs, but when you come with a professional certification, you're ready for the marketplace. The accounting brethren were in university many years ago. They go to university in the evening, they go where? Vision Plaza downtown. Where is University of Nairobi? That's where we used to go, somewhere here. And by the time they come out of university, they have what? They become an CPA. They go straight to Deloitte and Pricewaterhouse. You are tarmacking. What do? They leverage their time, encourage them. That's marketing for us. I'm pitching that for all of you. Please spread that word. Next slide, please. So we've been getting the basics right for that last 3 years, because I realized it's one thing to want to build KISM, but you've got to dig the foundation right. And that has been the job of digging the foundation. Go to the next one. So this is one area. This is, again, the most important thing that we have to do in terms of membership recruitment. We came into office when we had less than 2,000 members. Today, we are over 6,000, actually 6,300 and something as of yesterday. But the important thing is that we know we can be more than that. If you just look at the pipeline of people, since a degree called supply chain was introduced in 2008, we have over 50,000 graduates who have left, who have been churned out of universities. Question we ask ourselves, where are they? And so my job is to identify where they are and motivate them to become part of KISM. Because the more we are, the stronger we'll be, and the more we'll have a seat at the table. Having that Gazette notice also has a way of ring-fencing the profession and ensuring that we are now able to ask a question. if you are not in this register, why are you doing supply chain? And that's when you start talking about quacks and basically ensuring that you separate the wheat from the chaff and do compliance audits across. And that's going to be happening in the new year, God willing. Yes, continue. This, again, is one of those critical pillars that we have had keep clicking to ensure that we are able to handle our own in-house issues. And we are telling the world out there, if you have any issue with our members, please bring them to us. We have the mechanism, we have the investigation capability to investigate and ensure are they actually guilty. Because many times our members are victimized for the wrong reasons. So we want to be the first port of call for any issues to do with our members before they are taken to court, before they are arraigned before the public court of injustice, because they need a fair hearing. That's what we're asking. Give them to us first, and we'll investigate the matter before you just condemn them en masse like it has been happening. That's what history we must change, and that's the journey we have been on. Next one. Yeah, so this is another part of ensuring continuous professionalism. How can we continue working on this aspect? I'm taking you through these few slides just to tell you we have had to go back in-house, get our house in order before we now launch outside here. And this is a key pillar of ensuring that we have our house in order, having the requisite policy, ensuring that our members are able to be up to speed in terms of the new dynamics of the profession and effectively continuing to add value in the area they're in. Most important one I talked about right at the second last point right there, digital learning platforms. Sometimes not everybody can afford to go to, say, a hotel in Mombasa to stay there for a week. Companies' budgets are tight. We have provided opportunities for us to continue upgrading ourselves in this digital era that we are living in. Next one, please. This is another area that's still a big area, but again, it's an ongoing area of ensuring that we recognize those of us, and I want to challenge all of us here. If you've got good stories to tell about what you're doing in supply chain arena, I always say this, nobody will ever blow your trumpet for you. The media is against us. Many people are against us. Can we tell our story? This is the only place, and we have created the platform for us to tell our story, celebrate ourselves, small wins, but before long, we'll earn the respect of all people. Next one. Mentorship, a very crucial passion of mine. This is where it starts, from the university. And if you see right there at the bottom there, partnering with universities so that we catch them young. How can we mentor these guys from before they before they enter university? Why are they choosing supply chain? Is it for the right reasons, or are they for the wrong reasons? Mentoring them right from there and working with them all the way to the professional landscape. Today, again, hope my members who raise their hands are in good standing. But I wanted to tell you that we are now able, when we came into office in 2020, that's when we realized, this is what I talked about earlier on, our act is outdated, our own act that governs supply chain. And so we made sure we work on it to bring it in tandem or in alignment with the Constitution of Kenya, but most importantly, with alignment to the world-class standards are already there. The world has moved on. We cannot be operating in the same arena of 2007. So I'm happy to say that's now been really gone through a complete stakeholder engagement that's now sitting with the National Treasury and waiting for this. Oh, a little more. Just don't go too quickly. So most importantly, in this digital era, we can now leverage technology in terms of voting. We have to pray, of course, that the system will not be Venezuela, but that's another story for another day. But we keep refining our system to make sure it's watertight so that members have a say and a stay. Next one. Yeah, all this speaks to, I come from the world of faith, again, I keep saying this, laying a solid foundation. The institutions that we build today can only, the tallest building has to have the strongest foundation. And for me, that is a personal goal. With whatever thing you do in your life, dig deep, scale up. So that's where we are. We have done, I always tell people, when you see a building standing up, you don't know what's in the underground. The foundation is what determines how tall or how far you'll go in life. Next one. There's still a lot of work in progress that we still need to work on in ensuring that this supply chain is fully recognized. There's still a lot of work. We've just done the basics. We still have a long way to go. Next one. So what's in the horizon? Okay, again, I keep, that's a journey we are on. It's a journey. I always say the journey on if you have climbed a mountaintop, I can tell you, if you ever look up, you'll be daunted, you'll be scared. The mountain looks so domineering. So you must do what? One step at a time. Just look down, and before you know it, you're at the top already. So that's the journey we are traveling on, but we'll get there. Next one. Yeah, this is the biggest area that we need to reach, making sure we take the services of our members to our members on the ground, because we realize that with devolution came, but we are still what? Nairobi-centric. So we've been working very actively to go to the machinanis here and creating what I want to call regional hubs where we ensure professionalism, especially at the counties. That's where the problem goes in, and I'll talk about that very briefly. Actually, I can talk about it here. I think I don't have it, but the regions have the greatest challenges. The counties, when new governors come in, they come in with their own agenda. And the first people they target is who? Procurement. And they move them. He's a professional there who has done supply chain. And then you are taken to a department called liquor licensing. You are a Christian. You don't even know how to smell pombe. It's criminal. You are even taken to fisheries. You don't know how to fish. But what am I saying? This issue of taking a fully fledged professional into a completely irrelevant department is what you call kufutwa kazi bila kufutwa, constructive dismissal. You've been robbed the job or you've been sacked. Let's keep going. I forgot that. My members are here, so I can speak like that. They know what it means to be victimized. We've started our own college of supply chain management. Those of us who are accountants will know about KCA. And we realize that everybody is teaching supply chain, everybody except ourselves. And yet we are the mandate. So we have established our own Kenya School of Supply Chain, located right there at Kisum Towers, second floor. It's going to be now include everything else. If you want to do anything in supply chain, it continues to grow. There are many areas of supply chain, by the way, whether it's logistics, warehousing, clearing and forwarding, shipping, the whole, now there's a new one called blue economy, very new arena, very important area. And then health supply chain, all that area. So we're going to have a one-stop shop for all supply chain issues. And then the idea here is to make our center, Kisum Towers, Pan-African Center of Supply Chain Excellence. And I know it's very possible, because we as Kenyans, and especially as supply chain professionals in Kenya, we are so well educated, so well endowed. We have what it takes to launch into the rest of Africa, providing expertise, providing consultancy, and all that we have. We have what it takes. We can do it. Next one. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, actually, research. This, to me, is the future of all professionals. I've realized that many times lawyers, accountants, everybody else, they get these papers or projects. They get donor-funded projects. What do? They co-opt supply chain people. And most of the work is what? Supply chain. It should be the other way around. We should get the jobs and then bring in accountants, bring in lawyers, and they can add value to that. That's my dream, and that's my prayer that will make it happen. We have what it takes, but we've got to be able to write compelling, fundable, bankable projects that can attract donor funding. That takes a skill, that takes a little bit of thinking, and we need to work on that ourselves. Next one. Again, just related to that, I talked earlier on about how the media spin the story of supply chain. And I realized that it's because we have not told our story. We don't know how to tell. We have the content. We actually, you can have all the knowledge in you, but if you are not able to tell it in a way that the media will accept and publish it, you will sing there, they ignore you, tell their story. Sorry, for those of us who are friends of Yvonne Okwara, at one time she was like the new supply chain guru in town. She's clueless about supply chain, sorry about that. But that's the idea. How can we change that narrative? How can we tell our story as supply chain people? Don't let anybody else tell our story. We have the story, we have the content, we know where the shoe pinches. I'm challenging our people that we are the ones who tell the story and change the narrative. Next one. Again, opportunities for our members. This is an area, especially, go to the next slide. This place here, schools, the people who do supply chain, they don't do it with the act in mind. They don't do it, have you heard of people called bazaars? Wanatafuta hapo kwa Mwanginjora hapo, leta your quotation, and the things that go on in schools, and some of these schools have got bigger budgets than many buying institutions, I can tell you that. But that money, is it efficiently used? Is it transparently used? Is it well utilized? I don't think so. So we are saying these are places we need supply chain professionals. Our friends in the accounting function have succeeded to actually now ensure that each school has a finance person, and we must be right there, because that's where it all starts. We must get it right in our schools so that all the money is really used for the purpose for which it's created. People collect, parents pay school fees all the time, and you don't know where the money goes. A lot of money, by the way. Many schools have got much bigger budgets. It's coming from our money. How can we ensure it's fully utilized for the purpose for which it's meant? Next one. This is, again, a big dream I have. I realize that if we are not on the table, as it were, you are what? You're part of the menu. You're being eaten for lunch. So what am I saying? We need to have a seat at the table as supply chain professionals. So alongside what I talked about earlier, ensuring that we have the C-suite in terms of supply chain people, this is one place we must be. Many issues in many institutions that go wrong in terms of corruption issues, they relate to procurement. But I can tell you, if there's a board member in that board who is a supply chain professional, it will be possible to deal with it better and not just blame supply chain people. I've realized that, and it's a truth part. So I'm working on that one by one, ensuring especially the key institutions have a supply chain professional in the board. Next one. So there's still a lot of things, despite all that I've shared right there, there's still a lot of milestones and challenges ahead for the supply chain professional. It is not going to be easy, I've got to tell you. We are dealing with historical issues, we are dealing with deeply entrenched negative narrative, and it's going to take each one of us as a supply chain professional to change that narrative, one professional at a time, one institution at a time. Next one. Yeah, and this, again, when the CEO talked about this is where the challenge is. Our greatest challenge is right here, the perception of corruption here. Next one. That slide is a bit busy, but there are so many arenas where we have been told supply, whether it is the vested interest is the greatest challenge. People with vested interest, everybody looks at, and the reason why, apart from salaries, by the way, everything else goes through supply chain. So resources, that's the challenge. That's what makes people attracted to supply chain. So whether it is people in the public interest, people in the media, everybody's interest, parliament, all these people. Next slide. Yeah, it's good we don't have politicians here, but let me tell you, immediately after the campaigns are over and they get into office, this is what happens right here. Yeah? I will let you digest that one. Counties is where it goes wrong. It's where everybody says they need to recoup their investment. It's like an investment. You invest in politics, but you wonder, why would somebody spend 50 million or 100 million? How are they going to recover that? It just makes you ask that question. But this is how they'll get it. How else does he expect us to recover our campaign money? You see, this is real. They'll take, well, by the time as a procurement person you go into office, you are told, it is up to you to now calibrate it and ensure the order goes to the XYZ CEC. So these are the challenges we face at the counties, and these are the real challenges that our professionals face. How can we ensure we stand the test of time and not fear victimization? Next one. This is again a survey that was done. I think I'm now changing tact a bit to talk about, to you, our professionals in supply chain, how can we change the narrative? How can we ensure we add value so that our CEOs, our CFOs respect us and they know that we have a role to play? This is a survey that was done, and it was actually done by A.T. Kearney, which talked about how is the perception of supply chain. You can see the bulk of us were just narrowed in the middle there, from inconsequential to stragglers to the park. That's about almost 70%. It's only about 8 or 20% maximum that are considered as leaders. We've got to change that. It's got to happen from us doing the right thing. That is from the CFO, a finance view, and then the stakeholders. You can see, it's even worse here. It tells you that we need to move more to the leadership stage. We need to move more to the center stage of being seen as a valuable partner. Next one. Yeah, this is again a survey that was done. It's a challenge for I wish I could tell the other people, but it's good that we have a multi-stakeholder here. I'll ask them, is it true, when you think of a procurement person, are they confusing, bureaucratic, painful to deal with, obstructive? Our stakeholders, is it true? I hope it is not. Okay. Where is my supply chain professional? Have you heard of such words? Yes. Many times. So therefore, the question is, how do we change this narrative? Move from this to the next one. So that they see us as people who are really supportive, facilitative, results-driven, collaborative. When I worked in Coca-Cola, I always tell people I'm a consultant to the business, providing guidance, you are the expert. How can you make sure you actually be the facilitator of solutions, solution provider, creating solutions, not becoming the act says this, the act says this, the act says, you become obstructive. You know, when you do that, you become a nuisance. How can you move, much as the act is there, how can you ensure the law is followed, but you're doing what? Providing a solution. Don't say yet, this is the act. Take it or leave it. That's not being a solution provider. So I'm challenging us as we enhance our professionalism. It's not just a technical competence. A technical competence is one thing, but the soft skills, this ability to be a provider of solutions, to be a support to the business, this is my challenge to my fellow professionals. Calibrate your mind and move from, go back one slide. We must change this narrative, this issue of being called complex, annoying, obstructive, always just process-oriented, but become a solution provider. These are the two slides I will leave us with as I come to wrapping up. Next one, I think I'm about to finish. Yeah, I can leave this. This is actually the challenge we must. I'm told ladies are more able to do this multitasking or creativity. You can see somebody being as a manager, a CEO, a wife, a mother, all those things at the same time. Agility, it takes a serious agility for ladies. But we men are just one track. I need to marry a wife. Done. Next. Okay. So how can we become more? It's good to have all those skills of analytical, sequential, all that. But that is just the basics. We've got to be more big picture, more imaginative, more creative, more entrepreneurial, you know, and just show up on the table. Be more creative, so to speak. I think I've taken long, but I'll wrap up just now. Next one. So this is actually how we are going. Our next level is ensuring supply chain has a seat at the national table, where the very first time, last year, our very first, what I call national dialogue, where we call every stakeholder, not just procurement people, everybody who plays a role in all spheres of influence, because supply chain is holistic in that sense. And for me, having the very first time, it was actually opened by the CS Treasury, where we belong as a ministry, as a corporation, to bring people together, to catalyze stakeholders towards coordinated synergies, accelerating supply chain transformation. Everything is around supply chain, and that's the reality we are living in. But how can we leverage supply chain to drive the economy? So this is going to be an ongoing thing annually. We'll be doing this every year. Just come together. Come, let us reason together. How can we change the negative narrative? How can we leverage supply chain to drive economic recovery? Is that the last one? Oh, okay, next one. I think there's one more. Yeah, I'm closing now. Amplifying the role of supply chain. I've talked to you from the beginning, from just being viewed as clerical, tactical, operational, to being strategic, because we really are strategic. And then next one, I think it's a mission that's possible, transforming supply chain, redefining our identity, our image, addressing the challenges we have faced. At the end of the day, our job is how can we build a profession that we can all be very proud to bequeath the next generation of professionals. That's my mission, that's my dream, and I know it's a mission possible. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much for those remarks. We want to thank the MD for your first opener. You had asked what the other pillar was in the 5th Industrial Revolution. I did not give you the answer because I wanted to say it when I'm in front here so that I can look clever. Internet of Things, where your microwave can tell your fridge in the evening, it is now Tuesday, we will be eating chicken, so the fridge now reduces its temperature so that you do not take too much time to thaw the chicken in the microwave. That is where we are headed with the next thing. So that looks very clever, isn't it? That's where we are headed with the next industrial revolution. Thank you very much, Mr. Karani, for those remarks. I did notice when I was looking at your website that your building is called the KSM Towers, and I wondered how many they are, because if it is just one, it should just be a tower and not towers. But don't worry, the University of Nairobi has the same problem. They are also calling their building towers, and it is just one. So, and I also noticed that when I was introducing myself, I forgot to mention that I'm also a pastor. But you have stolen the thunder from me because you put your M-Pesa number at the beginning of the presentation. And I saw that there was a lot of also concluding. You know, they say no self-respecting pastor finishes his sermon without saying, in conclusion, at least 3 times. As I wind up, in conclusion, and to finish. So thank you very much for keeping in that. But on a more serious note, the KSM shall be having its 10th regional conference on the 13th to 16th of December 2022. This is happening in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I think the venue is Johari Rotana. So for more information, you can check their website, that is kism.or.ke, so that you can be able to be part of that discussion to build up just what the agenda has been done. So thank you very much for that. Our next speaker is going to be Rodney Masaya from Trademark East Africa. He's the head of distribution. Trademark East Africa is an institution that exists to help the East African markets work best in the business that they have in trade. And so Rodney is here to walk us through his section that he had prepared, which is public and private partnerships in a way to scale supply chain operations. Karibu, Rodney.
Wow. Good morning. You know, when your senior speaks, and he has covered actually most of what I wanted to cover, so I don't know what I'll say, but allow me to introduce myself. As you have said, I'm Rodney Masaya, working for Trademark East Africa in the procurement unit. Trademark East Africa basically is an aid for trade organization. We are in the region, so the East African region, so we support trade and markets, basically improving business competitiveness and reducing barriers. That's our main focus. We are spreading our wings into the Horn of Africa, so we are in Ethiopia, Djibouti, and also Somaliland, and we are also going southern of Africa, Malawi, and also Mozambique and Zambia. In a nutshell. Sorry. Oh, thanks. So I'll basically be talking about how we have, we are not yet there, as the chair said, KSM, in terms of procurement, but how we partner with our suppliers and how we handle our procurement. So basically, as the chair said, procurement, we are moving from being tactical or doing the quotations and everything, and we are doing a strategic partnership with suppliers. So we have, for our organization, value for money is key to the organization. So we crafted a term, instead of having procurement plans, we have mobilization plans. So we are not just going to procure and leave it at that, but we are going to ensure that the items are delivered, or the works have been mobilized and have been done. So we focus more on contract management. That's where we put more focus other than the paperwork in terms of getting a contract or an order out. So we focus our energy in negotiation, in partnering with our suppliers to be able to build rapport and have long-term agreements or frameworks, as to say, in terms of relationship with our suppliers. The essence for that is that, so we drive value for money is not that we only look at cost, but we also look at time. So items are delivered on time, and also we look at the quality of the services or the goods that have been delivered. So during the COVID, in 2020, during the COVID pandemic, we got some funds to have a safe trade project. So mostly trademark, we were not in the health sector. And you have this safe trade project of funds that you get, and it's supposed to be, you have to implement fast. And you know, by that time, COVID was really a thorn, and you need to fast track things. So we don't have suppliers on board in that sector. We have no rapport with people. So how do we go about it? So what we did, we seek around, and we noted that UNOPS is specializing in that sector, and we partnered with them to have an agreement in terms of we use their processes, we use their vendors to get these PPEs and everything on board. And by that time, as it has been alluded, the supply chain, especially from China, goods from China were really, because the factories had stalled, so they are really not coming in terms of delivery, to the delays and everything. But we had to have special arrangements with the UNOPS and have flights come in and just be able to address that. So we are saying that in terms of procurement, we need to build a relationship with other stakeholders. Don't look just inwards towards yourself. Look at how other stakeholders are doing things, borrow some things to them. Sometimes you have to also partner with them in terms of where you have, of course, common goals. In terms of technology, I'll say my employer is really impressive, and in terms of even before COVID, we used to have 1 day from working from home. So when COVID came and we were told, guys, you have to work from home, we didn't really, well, there was not so much distraction in terms of our way of working, because we had all the apparatus in terms of cloud, in terms of the systems. You could be able to access your shared drive, your systems through remote access, a secure connectivity, and it was just a normal. It's only that you stay more at home, and with that coming in mind in terms of now full-time working from home, of course, not working with the remote, we used to have some of the meetings, of course, done virtually in terms of making decisions, but other meetings then we had to have sittings. But what I can say about procurement and having the online platforms is that we have the portals whereby you have bidders express interest through, of course, when you advertise in your website or when you send on quotations to them on email, then they are able to bid or give their bids through the virtual platforms, as opposed to the physical biddings or bring of the tender documents to the office. Of course, in some cases, especially for works, we still have that area, but in terms of us, most of our procurements, we do it through the portal. So the portal has really assisted us in terms of even having a a virtual, the cloud spacing, in terms of keeping records, access to, of course, you give access to those who are permitted to do so, and just in terms of getting information, it's just a click away. So we have that in mind, and we really advocate that we use the various portals to do so. Sorry, I'd prepared a slide, but I'll not go much to it. So in terms of negotiations, in the past, when I started procurement, we used to have quotations we write on paper. We used to have just standard terms and conditions at the back of the order, at the back of the LPO. Nowadays, you don't have really standard terms and conditions, but we have every contract, every process having different clauses. We have the general, of course, the general specific, we have the general conditions, the specifications, we have the special condition according to our project. And with that, in terms of even looking at our procurement, you are able to tailor-make your processes to address your needs. So in terms of how we handle that is that we are a bit flexible in that, because we not only procure from the local manufacturer, but also we procure from international firms, and we have different, of course, the culture, different laws, different regulations, and we try to negotiate, come on the table, agree on some. Where we disagree, of course, we find our way forward in terms of which way to go. Mostly, of course, we domiciled our contracts in the country of where we work. So with that negotiation with bidders, we come in terms of to have a long-term relationship with them. We have, in certain cases, we have our needs, and we share with the vendors so that they can plan also, especially for raw materials in terms of to be able to derive and also just keep some things for us. So once we have those frameworks in place, we discover that when a need arises, we are given first priority because we had already mentioned what our needs are, so in terms of supply. And also in terms of the payment terms, of course, you make it very conducive, don't take too long. For our case, we pay within 30 days, and we discover that we are more favored in terms of, because even for you yourself, if you have somebody who is paying you after 30 days and somebody who is paying you after 90 days, of course, you'll prefer to supply to somebody who is paying you within a shorter time. So the lead times and the payment terms are also very critical to our costs. So as a way forward in terms of how we are advocating for the online space, we used to have bid bonds, advanced bonds, the performance bonds, advanced payment bonds being presented physically. And a case in point, during the COVID, so that since we are not in the office, we had a contractor, I'll call him a shrewd contractor, who brought a colored photocopy of an advance payment guarantee. And it was processed because now we couldn't, of course, confirm. We confirmed with the bank that it's of course, it's legit, but the bank had put a condition that you had to, if you want to cash that advance payment guarantee, you have to produce a physical one. So we had a situation whereby we had a non-performance for that particular assignment, which is a bit unfortunate. But when we were trying to cash in, then we are told with the bank, of course, there are these conditions to the bond that it has to be original. We thought it's an original when presented. It's a colored copy, and we had no way of verifying the same. We were told we had to pay through a certain account, and we didn't do that, and it brings so much complications. And what we are doing now, and this we are collaborating with our finance department. Now we are having bonds, either performance bid bond or an advance payment bond being done through SWIFT. So we're working with the banks The banks are also, of course, in partnership with us. So we are having this, the bid bond, it doesn't have to be a hard copy submission. So you're just given a SWIFT code, and once you get that SWIFT code, you alert your bank and they confirm, and you're able, in terms of if there's any, in case of any eventuality that the bidder will not perform, the contractor will not perform, then you're able to cash in. And just in terms of the way we are moving from more paper to less paper environment, we are really advocating that we have not only in terms of the performance board, but also have contracts signed online. So I don't have much to say on that. I just wanted to introduce this conversation in terms of how we do things, and I'll let, when we have those discussions, then we'll engage more and talk about further areas. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rodney. We will be having more opportunities to engage with Rodney during the Q&A session of the panel. Before we proceed, I want to recognize the presence of David Kiambade, who is the Area and Procurement Manager for Logistics and Services for Maersk. David, where you are, there you are. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. We will be hoping to also hear your comments during the time we have engagements. Ladies and gentlemen, we had, as earlier said, had lined up our chief guest to be the Cabinet Secretary for Health, that this is the Honorable Susan Nakumicha. But as the MD was noting, she had to pass her apology because of a national engagement outside the country. But Madam Susan is ably represented by her colleague, Dr. Nancy Njeru, who is a healthcare financing expert at the Ministry for Health. And therefore, it is my privilege now to request Dr. Njeru to take the stage and just give us her remarks. Karibu sana.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning again. Now, the second one is for our CS, Madam Susan, with whom authority I'm here in your presence. Allow me to pass her greetings to you this morning and also to give her apology. And I'm glad to be in your presence. Now, I'm Dr. Nancy Njeru. I work in the Ministry of Health. I head the Directorate of Health Products and Technologies. People used to call that office a chief pharmacist office some times ago. But you can see we are also evolving so that we are embracing. My background is a pharmacist with health system specialization and health economics. I am currently about to finish a certification in humanitarian supply chain at the Logistics Learning Alliance in United Kingdom. I am hoping you'll embrace me in supply chain. I've loved your certification process. Now, this is not my moment, so you'll allow me to read the CS speech. So thank you. The chairman of the council, Kenya Institute of Supplies Management, KISIM, Mr. John Karani in absentia. Managing Director of the Liaison Group, Mr. Tom Mulwa. Members of the KISIM Council present, and supply chain practitioners, stakeholders here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm glad to join you today for this Supply Chain Management Stakeholders Engagement Forum. I want to thank the organizers for extending this invitation to me, Asante Sana Liaison Group. From the onset, I want to recognize the highly respectable supply chain practitioners represented here from diverse sectors. I know that the discussions that will emanate from this gathering will be a solid basis for a better examination of the industry's challenges and solutions. I think you've already seen that. Indeed, this discussion could not have come at a better time than this. Currently, supply chain management is one of the hottest topics globally, as the world recovers from the disruptions caused by COVID-19 pandemic, and more recently, the war in Ukraine. In hindsight, the pandemic did an excellent job of shining a spotlight on the world's supply chains. Never before in modern history had we seen such a level of attention paying to the networks that support the making, selling, and distribution of commercial goods. Ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed a scarcity of critical materials and goods. Virtually every key commodity is either up in price or scarce, driving shortages and introducing complexities in supply chain management. When common necessities like toilet paper, hand sanitizers, and meat suddenly become unavailable in our shops and online stores, everybody started paying closer attention to the networks that shepherd those goods from the point of raw material to the end user. It is reassuring to note that the outcome of this experience has been a shift in the mindset, not from what I can do alone, but to what we can do together to ensure that basic tenets of humanity are upheld and the critical supply of commodities is restored within reasonable timelines. Although we have been experiencing these difficult situations, and we've been expecting the situation to eventually level out in the year, it has not. There's now a need to have stakeholders get out of their norm and be more adaptive, engage each other through open discussions as we are having here, share ideas on mitigating the effects, innovatively adjust and work around lead times, build inventory and buffer stocks, diversify suppliers, and be particularly sensitive in cushioning our public from prohibitive prices, especially for health products that save lives. Ladies and gentlemen, as a former supply chain professional, I must admit that we haven't done well in predicting specific disruptions across the value chain. We have focused on building resilience without identifying the specifics that can cure the prevailing operational gaps within our systems. While highlighting the industry robustness in the face of recent shocks, the presence of vulnerabilities that can limit the resilience of the supply chain networks is a cause for worry. The big debate in this room today should include how we can leverage on emerging technologies for shared benefits. Artificial intelligence, big data, machine learning, blockchains, and distributed ledgers are all transformative technologies now with us, and that are expected to greatly affect processes such as commodities demand planning, as well as supply planning. For those here working in the manufacturing and distribution sectors, you can attest that artificial intelligence is beginning to drive dynamic pricing and new product introduction, which is driven by predictive market intelligence. Well, as stakeholders in the supply chain, we must start seeking ways of jointly building our capacity to embrace these emerging technologies, as it will not only transform our processes, but also enhance our capacity to respond to supply chain disruptions. Ladies and gentlemen, besides this, I would like to highlight a few things for your humble consideration in this high-level meeting. Number one, supportive laws. Supply chain management scholars, legal minds, as well as other stakeholders in the public sector must continually engage each other in order to ensure that laws and regulations deliver flexibility and strengthen public procurement entities that are responsive to emerging challenges, whilst consistently remaining anchored in our constitutional provisions. Joint lobbying for the creation of an enabling environment For the practice to thrive, of course, the supply chain practice will go a long way in making the voice of supply chain management be heard and inform policy and legal reforms both nationally and globally. Number 2, knowledge and skills. One of the greatest challenges facing both the private and public sectors in Kenya is the availability of well-trained and practically exposed supply chain professionals. I love when I saw your glow, Carl. You know, as Kenya gradually shifts to local qualifications and certification by the Kenya Institute of Supplies Examination Boards, KISEP, there's a need to ensure that the training curriculum addresses the skills gap and that the supply chain professionals possess the skills and competencies needed by the local and the regional market. The solution lies with competency-based curriculum. KISEP must therefore interact frequently with the various supply chain management stakeholders and industry players to collaboratively develop a competency-based curriculum that guarantees graduates who fit well in the field of work, but also satisfy the needs of employers. Number 3, ethical and sustainable sourcing. This is increasingly becoming a priority issue in supply chain management. Indeed, no entity can be able to single-handedly deal with the issues of human rights, environmental sustainability, promotion of transparency, and ethical conduct in an industry. Most stakeholder collaboration is therefore important in driving meaningful and lasting change throughout the supply chain concerning the attainment of compliance by stakeholders, and benchmarking with each other will go a long way, especially in entrenching a continuous improvement culture among the collaborating stakeholders. Number 4 is the issue of embracing digitization for the supply chain. Of course, this is for the many benefits it confers: efficiency, transparency, resilience, risk mitigation, just to mention a few. The COVID-19 pandemic made agility, flexibility, and responsiveness even more critical for supply chain success. Healthcare was one of the sectors that was hit hard by the supply chain challenges during the COVID pandemic. And we are changing our governance models. We are adopting digitization and leveraging on technology to mitigate against systemic risks through timely data for decision making and building efficiencies and resilience. Number 5, I would like you to deliberate on these things. Number 5, quality and affordable pricing of goods procured. We must not lose focus of this. Quality remains a critical concern in all fields, and particularly in health supply chain where it translates to life or death of the users. You agree with me that we can and must aim for the best pricing regimens coupled with the highest quality products for our consumers. This is a litmus test for supply chains. Last but not the least, partnership. Number 6, partnership and collaboration in the supply chain. This will guarantee our success. No single stakeholder can withstand the supply chain shocks, such as those caused and witnessed during COVID-19. Even the best supply chains are put to tests in a period of emergencies. A fact that the Ministry of Health has appreciated in the past 2 years. As part of the learnings, the ministry jointly with stakeholders set up a public health operational center, health emergency operational center, to provide an effective and well-coordinated and efficient system for response to the pandemic and any other public health emergency that may emerge in the future using the Kenya Public Health Emergency Supply Chain Framework. This framework offers a structured approach to deploying medical countermeasures during a public health emergency. Well, I just want to mention that as an example of the ongoing systems improvements to guarantee readiness, and as we continue to welcome private sector to provide support under public-private partnership models. So ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, we must confront the challenges facing the supply chain sector head-on with clarity of vision, innovation, and willingness to adapt to the ever-changing environment in which we operate in. I therefore call upon all the supply chain management stakeholders here to prioritize both horizontal and vertical collaboration and utilize the end-to-end digital platforms available to further our shared interests and grow supply chain management to greater heights. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all fruitful deliberations. Thank you, and God bless you all. Nakumicha S. Wafula, Cabinet Secretary for Health. Thank you so much. After those remarks, I dare not say anything else. Asante sana.
Another round of applause for Dr. Nancy. Thank you very much for those remarks on behalf of the Cabinet Secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the next session, which is the panel. I will request the representative from the Ministry for Health, Dr. Njeru, to join me up on stage. I will also ask Rodney and also our Group MD, Tom, to be up here. And so we will just start off with a few just opening remarks to set the tone for the panel, and then our facilitators for the sound will be passing across the microphone for anybody who wants to make a comment or just general reaction from what has been shared today. And as that is getting underway, I have a message from Mr. John Karani, who has had to excuse himself, but he is communicating to all the members who are in the KISM association. He says, just please make sure that you register your name, your phone number, and membership number, because this will earn you COPD points. So I thought people would clap. Okay, there we go. CPD, not COPD. COPD is a disease. CPD points from this particular engagement. So that's a message from your chairman. So thank you very much. So let's proceed. I will begin by giving an opportunity for a question to be answered. MD, I think you will go first just to get the ball rolling again. You have noted that the tone of the engagement today has talked a lot about changing the way things are done and looking at doing things differently. I just want you to develop a little bit that concept. You talked about how do we do it differently. Liaison has been able to do it differently. Trademark has been able to do it differently. What else could we be looking at? What else could we be looking at that would do it differently? And then from there, I think we can probably have the other panelists react to your remarks before I move the questions to the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. I think the chair of the council has actually done justice to that question, Michael, because it starts with how we repackage ourselves. And I really like how KISM has actually attempted to repackage themselves, showcasing the end-to-end professional ecosystem for KISM from what we thought was actually a procurement career to a full-blown end-to-end supply chain professional field. So that packaging and changing the narrative of who you are, I think it's the beginning point of how we can do it differently. Dr. Jeru and of course the CS through Dr. Jeru has also attempted to answer that question by showcasing how we can repackage ourselves to start doing things differently. And I like also what Rodney has alluded to, trying to digitize and thrown in the challenge of how we can employ digital transformation into the field. So really the bottom line is doing it digitally. I think that is the punching point. Thank you very much, Michael.
So Rodney, you have made some remarks during the presentation concerning just changes you did at Trademark. Normally when you want to change approach, some of the immediate concerns that come out from decision makers is that this is expensive. Moving from paper to tech is expensive. I think the only thing that was not expensive is working from home. And I enjoyed your nugget where you said there is working remotely and there is working with a remote. So what was the experience of Trademark in these two? Was there sort of like an escalation in costs in being able to do this, or is it something that can be done within what budgets the organizations have?
Of course, it depends with, thank you for the question, it depends with the scale, what scale you want to do the digitalization. So for us, we have a budget for that. So we budgeted and so we budgeted and had some. We had some preference in terms of what can be done in the short term. Now asking quotation through a secure mailbox, that will be already have the email system, so you don't need to have a need for that, to have a budget for that. But for now, having a portal and everything that you need to try and have a budget for that within your projects.
Okay.
And then of course develop some plans with action plans and timelines to be able to achieve that.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Njeru, the CS in her remarks, which you have read, said something similar, the mind shift and the change in the way things are done. The question that, of course, many people probably felt enticed to ask when the forum began, and we were talking about COVID-19 and what happened and the issues that came about in supply chain, etc. The issue would be, are we looking at the possibility that the government now, in terms of departments like healthcare, the ministry that you represent, is there something that looks like there's a plan beginning to actually respond to that? Can we do it? What would it take for the government to actually action that? Because the approach that the government is taking now, it looks very private sector also, you know, best practice, best standards, everything. So what is it that you would have to say in terms of your take on where the ministry is headed in terms of just this kind of shift?
Thank you very much for that question. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that important question. Of course, the ministry is a big institution. When you plan, it takes time to plan. It's not a small institution to plan for. We are working with the two levels of government, and we provide policy direction for both. And so what happened in COVID-19 has taught us a lot of lessons. But again, moving forward and trying to look at what we can do differently to respond, I think one of the most important things is the aspect of building skills. For instance, when we look at the health sector is big. We've been speaking universal health coverage, and then we were thrown into the management of the COVID, where a lot of issues of supply chain also were exposed, and we are able to know where the gaps are. So the issue of building skills when you want to do something different is very important, because that's when you're able to respond to the matters. The other one, which is very important, is to acknowledge that you will not have everything within yourself, not just resources or even those specific skills and all expertise. And so the importance of leveraging on each other's skills and bringing in stakeholders on board and ensuring you're not working alone is something that can make you move faster when you are responding to a new issue. There's something else in terms of seeking to improve yourself each moment. You know, you are not settling. That is the only way you can keep moving forward and ensuring that you are responding to whatever comes up. So I love when I look at the quality, the improvement aspect, quality improvement. It's a stepwise. You don't say I've already reached. So that is something else that drives institutions and even individuals to respond to anything that comes, because you're always ready. You're always looking internally, where are my gaps? Where can I do better? I was able to achieve this. How can I do better? The other thing is the issue of adopting technology. First of all, technology actually is what is driving us. It's what is making us have to change to respond. And it is still the same one we have to use to adopt to the new changes. So these are very important aspect you have to keep playing in your mind. For the Ministry of Health, we've already been able to embrace that. There's a lot of emphasis on supply chain courses and training to respond, and not just that area alone, but the others also. Yes. There's a lot of aspect of embracing technology as per the Health Act Section 105 in terms of even developing an integrated health information management for the entire Ministry of Health, all the way from the health facility. So we are looking at this, and this is going to be very important. I think one of our strongest points has just been working with our stakeholders, where you don't work alone. Otherwise, it can be very difficult to respond to change.
Okay. Thank you very much for that comprehensive answer. There was a question I was going to ask Mr. Karani, but because he's not here, I'll just throw it to anyone of the panel to pick it up. A fascinating concept he produced when he talks about the way that there should be a promotion of the idea that people who are in the supply chain management are entrepreneurs. So I would have wanted to ask him, what's the difference between being an entrepreneur in the supply chain management and not a tenderpreneur? Because those two things have very different meanings, and I know he's being deliberate in saying this is where we want, the direction we want to take about. So any one of you is able to take that up, and I will also throw it back to also on the floor. I'll pick on David from Mask, because I just don't know. I have a feeling he might know what I'm talking about. So entrepreneurship versus tenderpreneurship in the context of supply chain management, what could he be possibly have been talking about? Anyone wants to volunteer with this before I throw it? Okay. I think I'll take Tom, and then I'll take Rodney also.
Yes, I think, Michael, I will recuse myself from that conversation, because the professionals are in the house.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I can attempt to answer that. So for the entrepreneur thing, we are looking at just driving the papers, and not really because the chair, Mr. John Karen, talked about, we need to add value to the process.
Yes.
We are not just being, it's not just seeing that we are just there to move process and move documents and make a contract.
Yes.
So for that, I think you need to blow your own trumpet. In my case, mostly when a project is successful, there are no procurement or supply chain people mentioned. So we normally advocate for that. And it took an effort of a supply chain practitioner to be able to have that contract in place.
Yes.
We had sleepless nights, maybe evaluating, doing ABCD, having the just replying to bidders in terms of the notification, outcome, and just to ensure that the whole process cycle is smooth.
Yes.
So, and in terms of the entrepreneurship, we also look at, you need to develop your suppliers.
Yeah.
So what we look at in terms of, so that if, let's say, for instance, today, Rodney did not succeed in a particular process, just have just notify them of where they went wrong.
Okay.
Of the areas to improve.
Yes.
Yeah. Not necessarily a weakness, but of area to improve. You might find maybe somebody did not spell out a methodology well, so you can say that you did not list the activities. So just speak to the point of what they didn't do well.
Yes.
And be able to improve.
Okay. So basically you're saying we are looking at a difference from people just sticking with the process in terms of just ticking boxes to explaining how the process of supply chain evolves from one stage to the other, so that your customers, your clients, the people who you're interacting understand how they have succeeded or failed to succeed in the relationship you have with them.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
And also you move on into now having a contract management in place, so that you don't just involve when the contract is out, then procurement are not involved. Then when trouble comes into the contract, then you are now brought in.
Okay.
You need to be always in constant engagement with that contract in terms of even during the implementation stage. So when problems are coming or arising, you're able to advise at that particular juncture.
All right. Dr. Njeru, any additional remarks on that before I throw it to the floor?
Absolutely. I wanted to just a comment on the scene. Because when I hear the word entrepreneur, the entrepreneur one has a connotation to
Yes.
it. Eh?
Yes.
And I just wanted to first mention that in any profession, we all make a living from our professions.
Yeah.
And that's why it has an entrepreneurial aspect to it, and
Yeah.
we cannot avoid that.
Yes.
That's why we are all professionals in our different areas. But I wanted to mention that the aspect of self-regulation, the issues of professionalization come out and just clear these problems or perceptions that people may have.
Yeah.
Because when I look at procurement and even what was being presented, the many ones, what we think about it, and I look at the past few years, even in COVID, how the supply chain came in for us, and we were able to bring in vaccines,
Yeah.
to do the deployment,
Yeah.
to do a lot of procurement of PPEs and,
Yeah.
and supply them.
Yeah.
Of course, you can see how that was adding value.
Yes.
There were some challenges that come with it,
Yeah.
but that's where now we start drawing the line between professionalization of the process and how the interests are being managed. I just wanted to mention that because it's important.
Yes.
I believe for me, what KISIM is showcasing here
Yeah.
in terms of professionalization of the profession
Yes.
is going to cure everything else. And this is a profession to just be proud of.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I think it's a very good point. Yes, you can give a hand clap for that. It's a very good point because, like the chairman was talking about, he said the messaging has, of course, been very skewed towards the negative. Rodney is saying that when good things happen, nobody ever talks about how that success was implemented because procurement and supply chain got it right. So I think at some point probably somebody will ask from the floor, if they don't have any question, what were the success stories during the COVID times? Because we only know the bad news. But we also know that vaccines came, PPEs came. There's a lot of things that actually worked, and it took people in supply chain to be able to get that done. So I think that also should be amplified so that there is a little bit of context also, so that it's not just, all gloom and doom.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to mention that as a lady when I was growing up, we would be told that sometimes you are judged by your worst performance. And most people tend to forget all the good things that have been done when something really major comes up. Well, in terms of the COVID-19, the successes were many. Maybe I can just mention a few.
Yes.
The issue of the rolling out of the vaccine was very successful. If you remember, there were targets that had been sent for different countries. I know for Kenya, we had some 10 million, and by December, if you remember something like that, I think one of the countries that made the target.
Okay.
As had been planned,
Well done.
courtesy to a lot of management of the supply chain at the background. I was then a member of the Procurement and Logistics subcommittee
All right.
for the task force. Because the task force has several subcommittees, aspects of legal and allowing new vaccines to the country that have not been, it's just the issue of ethical and clinical pre-authorizations. We had committees that were dealing with the demand, planning, and you're sensitizing the people to go for vaccines.
Yes.
We had other committees that were dealing with resource mobilization, but one of the very successful committees was procurement and logistics at the Ministry of Health. So I really remember that one.
Yes.
And we also did the COVID-19 deployment plan, and we really succeeded. Right now, I think it's only a committee that is still meeting every month.
Well done.
Before, in the past, since last year when the task force was created, up to 2 months ago, we've been meeting weekly. So that's the importance of these supply chains and procurement processes. And I know there are so many successes, much as we have things that we have to, the vulnerabilities that we have to wind out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, David, I will now move to the floor and ask you to take your shot at, a further interpretation of, entrepreneurship and tenderpreneurship, and then I will allow now the questions to begin to come up. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. I'll just add on to what Rodney said. I will approach it from a customer angle, from customer centricity. So, Henry Ford once said, if you ask these customers what they wanted, they would have asked for a fast horse. But he went ahead and made a car. So by understanding the needs of our customers and building solutions around those needs, as supply chain professionals, we have a lot to bring to the table. We are out there in the market. We know market dynamics. We know pricing. We know what's changing in the market. I like what the chair said of us having a seat at the table. because we have a lot of value we can bring to the table. So by understanding the needs of the customer, we bring that entrepreneurship. We sit with our pricing teams and we develop products. We partner with the right suppliers to ensure that the need of the customer is met. Not just doing a tender and you get 3 quotes and you take the cheapest quote, but you make sure that payment terms are looked at, sustainability is looked at. Do our suppliers have what it takes to deliver this product? Do they have insurance? Do they have certifications? Have they understood the scope of work?
Yes.
That's the value that supply chain professionals have to bring to the table.
Thank you.
And that's what separates us from just being tenderpreneurs to being an entrepreneur. Because when you sit at the board level and you help in strategy building, you are bringing more to value, and of course you are lifting the profession.
Thank you very much. So we are now going to move the microphone across the table. Just raise your hand wherever you are. I think I will take a burst of 3 questions. I can see a hand at the back there. Just say your name, the organization you work for, and who it is that you're directing your question to. Let's take, is it 3? I think 3 should be fine. We do that round and then another one and see where this takes us.
Okay, thank you. My name is Julius Kiveka. I work with Michael Mitao at Liaison. My comment specifically is also on the tenderpreneur that Michael has talked about. And my perspective is
Sorry for that. Let's get the next microphone.
Okay, thank you. Mine is more as a contribution to the question. I also talk from the customer side. I'm not a procurement professional, but I've interacted with them. I think the word is just a perception, because supply chain management has brought sanity in terms of the processes that we usually work on. One of them is it has created a metric of knowing who you can work with in terms of capacity, in terms of the job that you are supposed to do. Also, the ones who want to be interested to work with you, they have questions to ask themselves whether they have the ability to do it because of the way the matrix has been set, and you are not just going to get people, but also you are going to get quality service in terms of what you are going to do. So they have also brought transparency in terms of, at the end of the day, how has this process been done? So the positives are more than actually the negatives. But everything that we do, there is also the pros and there is also the cons. But in this process, I think from the supply chain management, the pros are more than the cons. Thank you.
Thank you, Julius. There's a hand here. This should be Winston from Mask also. Thank you very much. Let's have Winston give his remarks.
Thank you so much. I'm Winston from Mask. I have 2 questions. So the first question is directed to Trademark. I know a lot has been done under AFTA, the African Continental Trade, and also ESC. But from a customer's perspective, there's still a lot of bottlenecks. If we look at Uganda getting their goods is quite easy. If you go to Tanzania, it's an issue. If you go to Ethiopia, it's an issue. Of course, Somalia is a different story. What is it that your organization is doing to foster trade across the border so that there is free movement of goods, as much as we have these organizations that are going on? The second question is directed to Dr. Nancy. This on the Ministry of Health. I know we have handled a lot of the vaccines in terms of moving them around the country and even the immunization that was going there earlier. But some of the challenges, of course, you have the success stories that you've also mentioned that we have also witnessed. But what is it the ministry is doing to improve quick response when there is an issue? Because when you look generally, when there is an issue within the country, there is normally some laxity, or let me say, it takes some slowness. So what is it the ministry is doing to make sure that there is a quick response to such issues? Thank you.
Thank you, Winston. Let me take one more question before I allow the panelists to deal with those. Yes, there is David.
Thank you. Mine is to Mr. MD. In terms of insurance, as a group, what are you doing to foster the awareness to suppliers on insurance products like carriers liability and fidelity guarantee and GIT? Because we have so many like transporters out there who don't even know about these products, who don't even believe in it. As a group, what efforts are you pushing out there to give them that awareness that they actually need it?
Thank you. So let's have those three questions taken. I think there's a question for Rodney, there's one for Daktari, and then MD, you will take yours. So let's start with Rodney as we come this way.
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. And as you rightly alluded, we are working also with the EAC. And the main reason why we are working with the EAC is because it's an umbrella body for the countries. And we realize that when you work with the individual countries, let's say the various departments, it's a bit hard to convince maybe KEBS to adapt a standard that TBS is using. Like if you look at just like our sodas, in Kenya we have I think 330 ml, in Tanzania is different. But so we are working with the EAC who have those departments, the sanitation departments, to have that harmonized. But that will take time, because also from their end they're also pushing back. They're saying, Kenya, your VAT is 16%, us is 18%. We need yours to also go up. So you have some, of course, those discussions. But for now, what we try to do is have the different departments sit down to address those bottlenecks. For the border post, I can say in terms of goods moving, we have tried to address some of the softer issues, like now having supporting with laptops, with the software, and also just having the issue of one-stop border post advocated and being at least used. One-stop border post is whereby when a Kenyan truck driver is going to Uganda, you don't have to stop in Kenya and also in Uganda for your goods, so you are clearing twice. So instead of doing that, you only stop once. So when you you stop at the Ugandan side. So when you are at the Ugandan side, you have a KRA, a customs representative from KRA, and you have a URA representative in the same location, maybe different offices, but the same location for clearing, as opposed to the past whereby you have to clear with the Kenyan side before you go and also clear with the Ugandan side. So we are having those discussions. It's mainly piloted in the major border posts, but we are also trying to roll out to the smaller ones.
Thank you, Rodney. There was a question to Daktari on the things that the ministry is doing to improve faster response time.
Okay, thank you very much for that question, because actually for the Ministry of Health, it's very important to be able to respond on time, and especially in times of emergencies. I think in the CS speech, you mentioned the issue of the public health, the emergency response framework. We also have other policy documents that support these processes, including an emergency policy, even a strategy. And so the Ministry of Health, if you look at the constitutional mandate, is to be able to provide policy direction for the sector. So in terms of the required policy documents, standards, and guidelines, we make an effort to ensure other stakeholders, be it the private responders, be it the counties, that they have this. So the other thing that we do as the Ministry of Health is coordination. Very important in terms of coordination. If you look at even during COVID, there were emergency centers We've also tried to coordinate a lot because we are dealing with a two-tier government, and we have to work with the independent county governments. So even if you look at the aspect like the COVID-19 task force was bringing a lot of stakeholders, and not just the counties, but also other government ministries. It's more foreign affairs, it's industry, all sectors were involved, ICT, and all of them. So the coordination actually is one of the most important aspects used by the Ministry of Health, including in the what is also allowed in the Constitution, the intergovernmental forums, escalating to summit. So the issue of the response comes in early when you bring in and coordinate with our partners, the stakeholders, be it institutions like World Health Organization, the institutions that bring sometimes financing, sometimes it's donations in kind, for PPEs or even other medicines. We have had cholera and other outbreaks. We've found our neighbors have Ebola, and as a country we have to be ready. So even that coordination has really worked for us, including what we need to do. It's not easy, but I think as a country we really try a lot, but that's what we've been able to do.
Thank you very much, and all the best in that. I heard somebody saying that this country doesn't actually have two tiers of government. It has 48 national government and the rest of the 47 governors. Everybody's thinking their own thing. So you have to have 48 conversations. So MD, the question was on awareness, and perhaps you would want to also just say, this is what is there in terms of insurance, and then this is what we are doing to increase awareness for it.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Actually, one of the strategies and tactics we are using to create awareness is forums of this nature, because we've realized that most of the risks surrounding the supply chain are actually insurable. Most serious ones is actually things like product recall. There are many risks around the supply chain which are actually insurable. And using stakeholder engagements like today, we are actually able to transfer that knowledge to yourselves, and you'll be able to identify cheaper and efficient ways of transferring that through insurance. So we've done these engagements with the HR professionals. We are doing this as well with the company secretaries. We are doing this with the accountants as well. And it's a journey, one step at a time, and at least we'll be able to transfer this insurable knowledge to yourselves. Even the supply chain professionals themselves, you are exposed to a risk as a professional. You could actually be sued by either a potential supplier or any other stakeholder, and those insurances are actually available. And for you to stay in reputation, to stay in good standing, then you may need to transfer that risk to insurance. So we are taking these steps as liaison group, as part of our thought leadership, to educate the stakeholders, to educate the public on why it's necessary to transfer those risks to insurance. So I'm happy that today we've got you converted. Michael said he's a bishop, so we have one convertee. You'll become a trainer for trainers next time, David. And I'm sure before we finish, we'll have many of you already selling this gospel of that supply chain is a professional field, and the insurance part of it is available. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So let's take another 3 questions from the floor. Just raise your hand wherever you are. We'll move the microphone to you. Any reactions? It doesn't also have to be a question. It can just be a reaction from what has been said, a contribution to add context to that. I am looking. Yes, there's a hand here. Thank you. I think that was Kenya National Library, if I'm not wrong. Huh? Just give your name and institution and where you're directing your question to.
Thank you. I would like to direct my question to the MD. I don't know why he's liaison or liaison? Michael, you help me with that.
We are holding a competition to find out what is the right pronunciation. Your name, please?
My name is David from the
David.
Kenya National Library Service.
All right.
I know when I say library, most of you are thinking books, but that is a very small component of what we buy in the procurement department. So I want to direct my question to the MD and Mr. Rodney, who are both in the private sector. So I just want to find out, how do you carry out your pre-qualification of suppliers, and what opportunities do you have for the preference and reservation groups that we have in Kenya? Because your big companies, what opportunities do you offer these schemes of groups that are less fortunate in the society? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, David. Let me take another question. Oh, that can be answered as people are marinating on that. So you've been conjoined, so I don't know whether you'll do the both of you or one of you will volunteer.
Yeah, thank you very much, David, for that challenge. For me, I think that one will be easy because I've got two of my lieutenants here. The one who does the procurement is Yvonne. Yvonne Nyawanga is here. Yvonne, if you could raise your hand. And Yvonne works with James Mwangi. James Mwangi is our director in charge of finance and strategy. I learned today that procurement cannot be under finance and strategy, so that is going to be a review. A review. So I will ask James to answer that question on how we are addressing the balance between the minority and the less privileged in our business in terms of sourcing. That was the question.
Yes.
So that goes to James.
Good morning. It is true. Probably I start by introducing myself. My name is James Mwangi. I work for Liaison Group. I'm in charge of finance and strategy. Maybe first I attempt to answer that question. Then I'll also float a question. Probably I would have wanted the John to have been here, but probably because he's not here, probably it will be something that is good for somebody probably to attempt to answer that question from me. But first of all, to react to the question from our David, our procurement process is open, and I think when I'm not a lawyer, although I'm sitting next to an advocate here, Caroline Nadul, I think there are provisions of the Constitution. I think, if I'm not wrong, I think 227 sub-article 1 that defines the process in terms of fairness, equity, and also to the minority groups and to the youth. That is open for us. We open our procurement process to everyone. We actually encourage all the groups to participate, and we have people who have actually won our contracts who are from these minority groups. That's true, Yvonne. So I think I will rest my case at that point. But to ask a question in terms of procurement of services, we see that all the time a lot of institutions advertising for services for insurances and other products which are in financial sector, but we don't see them advertising for banks and such services. We have wondered how is it possible that institutions in the same sector are subjected to competition every year and others are not, and how sustainable is it? One advantage or one challenge in that is that we find when you float this every year, the focus is not now on the quality but on the price. So I don't know how the procurement team or professionals are able to address this, because then it is not sustainable. We find the prices coming down every year because of the competition, and therefore the quality in terms of delivery becomes now an issue.
Because every year there is a tender, the prices come down 20%. So in future, it appears the insurance will be free. And then the repercussion that there will be no claims to be paid. So I don't know how we balance that. So maybe somebody can be able to help us that.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I will ask someone from the floor who is either from KISM or anyone just feels competent to answer. This is a discussion, so I don't think there's such a thing as a right or wrong answer. But to help us and help James figure out what do we do with the issue of that mismatch. So I don't know, who do I select, or do I get a volunteer from the floor? Am I seeing a hand somewhere?
Maybe I can also just contribute.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Towards the question on the pre-qualification.
Right.
So for trademark, our pre-qualification stroke frameworks are advertised through open tender. So they are the public tendering, and for us, all our tenders are free. So we don't charge any fee to get our tender. And what you just need to do to get into to get the opportunities or to know about it is log into our website, go to the procurement page, and you'll be able to download the tenders. So the tenders, it's a click away. So you just need internet and maybe a good laptop or computer to be able to download. Now, in terms of how we are addressing the minorities, we have certain tenders which have a criteria that is purposed for them. So you have additional scores for gender balance. We don't normally say women, but we say gender balance because we get, of course, it's two sides of a coin. So we address both sides so that you don't have maybe a consultant service that is all male dominated or all women dominated. So we say you have to show the gender balance and you get extra scores for that. We also have some tenders which have advocate for more nationalities within the team. So we get maybe an allocation of each team member who is from that particular country or that particular area. They'll get extra scores for that. And that now when you are doing evaluation, you of course, somebody who has that in mind, who has balanced both, will get more marks technically on that. Maybe to your question, James, in terms of trying to balance between the pricing and all is good. For our case, we have a weighting. So we have some weights which are allocated, the proportion is allocated towards the technical and another one towards the financial. So it depends. You can have 80% technical, 20% financial, 70-30, depending on the assignment. What is critical? Is it more of a quality or more of a cost? Because as much as we talk about we want quality goods, but we want quality goods that are affordable, quality services that are affordable. So you have to balance the two. So in my case, I'll maybe say just look at the weighting. If it's internal, because that's what we do internally, maybe I'll let somebody from KSA maybe answer in terms of the other areas. Thanks.
Okay, there's a hand up here by David.
With the permission of the MC,
yes,
I want to add something that James had mentioned. My name is Brian Robb from Liaison Crew, and over the last few years, we have had a lot of challenges balancing the quality of service and the cost. And I think more specifically to the government entities, because for the private sector is quite straightforward. For them, they will call for the quality. At the same time, they will call for the competitive price. That means they use the weighted average. Well, it comes to the government, there is something that is always put there which says lowest evaluated bidder. So does it mean that the lowest is always the best? Or how do you marry in terms of the quality and the cost? More specifically, pronounced in service industry. For the issue of the provisions of goods, it's very straightforward. If you are doing provisions for pens, it's pretty straightforward. But for the government entities, more so to the Kims as well as to Daktari, how do you balance now someone will quote 2 shillings with poor service? Another person who will quote 10 shillings and very good in terms of service. Maybe that is a challenge that we in the industry we are facing.
Okay, so there's a hand here. I think we will take that. And then I think also David, you had seen your hand up. So let's start with the lady and then.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Apio. I'm from Nakada. I'm a senior supply chain officer. I like when he talks about the lowest evaluated bidder. We don't just go for the lowest evaluated bidder. We go for the lowest responsive evaluated bidder. There must be criteria that this evaluated lowest bidder has met. So we just don't pick the price. Has he or she, if it is a woman, has met the required minimum requirements that were put there as a requirement. He must be responsive.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. It's a very valid concern, but I would, in addition to the weightings, I would look at it from a sustainability angle. Whenever you go out to tender, what are you looking for? Are you looking for price, capacity? So we always encourage bidders to be creative. You might maintain your price the same way, but say you have improved my payment terms or you have added in other packs. Because we are living in tough times. I'll speak from a logistic perspective. Everything is going up. Fuel is going up. Tires are going up. We don't expect transporters to reduce their prices, but how can they be creative? Can they bring solutions like leasing and all these things, which at the end of the day will give us a saving? That's my comment.
Thank you very much. Yes, there are 2 more hands on that table. I think I will make this the last 3 questions before we...
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I think, before I direct my question, I'm Betty Wanjiru from Kenya National Library Service. And I'm seated here thinking, what benefits do we enjoy from being members of KISIM? Yeah, we have the card. Yes, we are members. Yes, we'll vote. Yes. But what else do we get to enjoy as practitioners? How is the KISIM protecting us? What benefits are they bringing to us as practitioners? Number 2, our profession is it's prone to a lot of, let me call them bad things. You could be coerced, you could be made to do things. I'm not saying that it is something that is there by a must, or it is a must for it to be there, but sometimes you find that some practitioners are being coerced to do things, probably select a certain firm to do 1, 2, 3, probably conduct proceedings in a certain way. How is the KISIM protecting practitioners? Where do they go when they feel that this is too much? And what benefits will they enjoy? Thank you.
I think I'll just want to add on what the head of NACADA has said, and also to answer your question. There's a very delicate balance between quality and pricing. The Act is very clear that once you're doing evaluation, you need to go to you need to award the lowest evaluated responsive bidder. But before some of these complex proposals in the service industry, before you engage them, there's something that we do which is called a market survey. So we go to the market, we do a survey, and we get to know what is happening in the market. So when we come to do the evaluations, you will find scrupulous bidders who have quoted low prices because they know the criteria is the lowest evaluated bidder. But when you match that with what is in the market, then we treat them as abnormally low prices. So we disqualify them at that point in time because you can see they clearly wanted to be awarded the contract by quoting the lowest prices. So, and we also have abnormally low high prices. So you'll find in an instant somebody has quoted for this pen, branding and all that, at 500 shillings. Or the normal BIC at 500 shillings. And yet, probably they are the lowest evaluated bidder. So you have a responsibility as a procurement personnel and a professional to really see that this is exorbitant and it is it's not prudent utilization of public resources. So at that point in time, you recommend for cancellation based on abnormally low or high. So that is how you cushion and find a delicate balance between quality and the price. I hope I have answered you. Or you have, in case you have anything more, we can deliberate after this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. So there's a question that Betty from Kenya National Library was asking. I don't know whether we have anyone from KISM who can talk a little bit more on the benefits of membership, because her concerns are two. Number one, just as part of marketing, what is it that we get beyond, you call it the membership card, and maybe the CPD points. What else can the membership enjoy more, and how do they also ventilate some of the frustrations or difficulties they may have as professionals through their association? So anyone probably also could be a member, and maybe you have been helped by KSM's advocacy on your behalf. You can share your experience. We see whether there is something comparative. Yes, Appeal. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you once again. I am a member of KISM in good standing, and I believe I'm here as a benefit of being a member of KISM.
Yes, so Serena breakfast.
That's called because being a member, we also benefit from networking.
Okay.
So if I had not been a member in good standing, I would not have received the communication. Okay. So that's one of the benefits. It leads us to networking. Another benefit is discounted rates. When we have trainings, you'll find that members get a discounted rate. We don't just pay the same rate with non-members. And job references. There are many jobs that go through KISM. Like I saw a job from Liaison that was advertised through KISM. And I know that members who applied through that through KISM, they had an upper hand because they know these are good, well-trained, in good standing in procurement.
Thank you.
And I believe most of us here are members, and not just members, they're also in good standing. And we have had cases of practitioners being victimized in many institutions. And we've had the KISM chair in particular, or the body, coming in on behalf of the members to talk for us. And they have defended us in many situations. We had a case in, maybe I'm not too correct, but I know we had cases in KPLC and many other areas that procurement practitioners have been victimized. And we've seen the body standing in strongly on behalf of the members, that you cannot only say that procurement officers to step aside. We don't work alone. We also work with the heads who are called the accounting officers. Why not the accounting officer? Actually, the KISM has come in strongly to defend its members. And I know if there's another point that I've left out, other members can add. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Apia, for that. Thank you very much. Any other points? Anyone? Yes, there's a lady at the back. Somebody would probably want to ask, or maybe it's another question.
My name is Monica Mwangi. I work for KPLC. I would love to try and answer Betty when it comes to procurement and vested interests. Vested interests are one of the areas that is never really spoken about in procurement. But as a procurement officer, your role in that committee is basically being a secretary. It's the users, it's the other members who are the evaluators. Of course, you'll be pushed and told, try and see how to assist 1, 2, 3. Remember, the Act tells us there's a reason why we have individual sheets. The individual sheets that the members evaluated independently. Your work is to just pick the sheets and then draft a summary. How I've dealt with it in my career: listen, pick the notes, what you've been told to do, and then as a professional, evaluate independently. Some of the people that are normally being pushed for have honestly qualified. So with or without the push, they just get to win the award. Those who've not really made it, what you do, of course, you don't tell your boss immediately, no, I'll not do it. Pick the notes, later on come and talk to him and tell him, hey boss, the guy that you are pushing for didn't have a tax compliance. And currently we know that a TCC is a must. And you get to verify the TCC from the KRA checker. So just tell the boss, this guy, his TCC was not compliant and he didn't have 1, 2, 3 things. He didn't have a manufacturer's authorization. So for this reason, he didn't pass. And when you get to address the issue much later, I find that the person who was trying to push gets to pick the information with a lot of soberness. And like when he told you, try and see if Kamau can get it, and you told him, no, I'll not do it, or it's not possible. So I'd say it's a matter of wisdom, listen, and you get to strategize how to address the issue. Because truth be told, we'll meet with this particular challenge in our career. Be it the local procurement, be it international, somehow someone believes that they have to push for their bid. But had they done their work correctly, then there's no need to push. That's my personal advice.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Monica. I had promised the last question, and I think unless there's a burning one. From the panelists, any comments or reactions, closing remarks? I think I'll just run through Rodney, Daktari, and MD, and then wrap it at that. I've not seen any hand up, have I? Oh, this, okay, yeah. Victor, you'll close for the floor, and then I'll let the panelists just conclude with.
Thank you, Michael. Pia mimi niko na maoni kidogo. I think from what the chair of KISM said, I've realized I was my class of university in 2008 was. I thought it was the previous class, but I think we were the first ones to have the supply chain degree introduced while I was there. And it's indeed true that for us who went to do accounting, we were a handful and we were majority men. And the rest went to supply chain. People left marketing, people left human resource. And because on the other side of procurement, majority were ladies, we found ourselves in their group discussions, and by association, we also got a degree in supply chain by association. But I like what he's saying. And I wanted to take the question to the representative for the CS for Health, is on the matter of the law. We find most of the time procuring from government entities, it's like they use the law to avoid doing procuring. And sometimes we need some innovation. The chair of KISIMA said they're trying to train their professions to be innovative in terms of applying the law and not using the law to prohibit procuring of services. So I will not ask on behalf of the government. I'll just ask the CS in terms of what is Harm Ministry doing to ensure that the law is not used to prohibit procuring of services, but it's used to enhance innovatively to bring services and ensure that the proper preferred bidders are brought on board. And not just to say, because somebody has said, if you have a TCC, sometimes you have the TCC, but it's not there. But if you can check it, you can find it there. So, I was told such kind of things. If you don't have it in your tender, you are already disqualified. It's only that sometimes you do these tenders overnight and you forget. But sometimes I think, the law can be applied proactively, or but not retroactively. So I just wanted to ask the CS, if these are the things that her ministry, when you get the other government representative, you can ask them, how can the law be used innovatively instead of be used to not innovatively? Thank you.
Okay, so I think she'll take that when she's making also her concluding remarks. Or do you want to take it now? The question he's asking.
Let me take the
Okay,
question.
take it now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. I'll attempt to mention a few things around the law being a hindrance or a prohibitive. And if you remember in the CS remarks, the issue of having flexibility in the laws that are responsive and to the emerging needs is very important. I think for me, I want to appreciate that in health we find a lot of challenges. And I can draw parallel to what we've been having in economics. And when you are looking for value and you're applying the principles of economics, and then you find in health there are so many externalities. You have to look at case, there's health involved and all these. And even when you come to procurement, I think we keep requesting that procurement of health commodities may not directly follow the procurement of other aspects. If I'm buying a pen, a chair, and these other, a cloth, maybe a vehicle, they may be slightly different from buying maybe ARVs or paracetamol that somebody is going to take. And so we've always kept coming back to you, back and forth. And even right now, when you look at the policies and where the government is going, if you remember the Big Four agenda that were there, the issue of Ministry of Industry was there, we were there as health. We've been speaking a lot to Buy Kenya, Build Kenya slogan and, domesticating it. Starting now speaking to issues of local manufacturing, local procurement, affirmative action in procurement. Speaking, how do we enhance local procurement? What are the reservations and what is allowed in the procurement law? The other day I was looking at the ceilings of the 500 million when you're doing local procurement. I was like, is this not so low, How can we start reviewing this? And so when you start speaking about the law and being a hindrance, I think we have suffered most as the Ministry of Health. Since 2018, when we were trying to get to UHC, I think we were coming back to the issue of reviewing the procurement law to allow the multiple awards. You come, somebody wins paracetamol the whole year, and especially I like when somebody was speaking about prices and quoting the lowest price, and this person, media, is not able to supply you, and so the whole of Kenya does not have paracetamol. Just because somebody failed in a way or another. Or maybe this is just a life-saving drug like oxytocin, which is used in maternal delivery. You're trying to control bleeding. And so you find the procurement law sometimes has not worked for us. Okay. There have been challenges. Yeah. And I know when we've been trying to push for multiple awards, I think there's been some responsiveness. I think you've been speaking to framework contracting and all these processes. We keep coming back to you. And I know right now we are coming back to you because of enabling local manufacturing and local procurement. We're speaking to you to issues of affirmative action. Some prices coming for drugs coming from India may be very, very good, or maybe the slight difference is very small. But when you look at the economic analysis, you may find there is value buying internally than just looking at the absolute, the price itself. Yes. So there are a lot of things that will keep coming back to you. And I don't know, I don't have the solutions, but I know in health we are suffering. And that's why one of the requests, even the CS remarks, was the issue of enabling laws for responsiveness to the emerging needs in the sector, and especially health. I think allow me to use this opportunity to say my closing remarks. Yes, and I think for me, it's on behalf of the CS really. First to say thank you very much, and to congratulate you for what you are doing, because it is a very important aspect where you can discuss this. At least now you know where we are pinching, our pain point. And so, and also to appreciate actually what you are doing, because when I was looking at, and when I look at the challenges we have in procurement and our institutions and our health products, I think when I see when you are owning to the challenges that are there, and I know that working on self is the biggest, is the hardest thing, and especially owning the problems and saying these are the problems that you must work on. That is very, very, reassuring.
Yes.
So I want to congratulate you. I also want to appeal to you on behalf of the ministry and the CS, who is a supply chain professional, and who's I've heard her mention in many forums that if there is any legacy she wants to leave in the Ministry of Health, is streamlining supply chain.
Very good.
And so I think, streamlining the supply chain for health.
Yeah.
So I think I would not be wrong if I was to call on you stakeholders, be it at the individual level where you are carrying out the procurement, be it at the institutional level, if you can partner with the Ministry of Health to support her big agenda towards excellence in this field. I think we'll be able to achieve this goal for her together in the shortest time possible. I also appeal to individuals where you are, if you are procuring for health, kindly remember the impact it has on the lives of Kenyans, and how can we continue stretching and making value and ensuring that the processes are seamless.
Yes.
Because if I don't have a pen to write today, it's not the same if I don't have a life-saving drug today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rodney, your parting shot.
Thanks. Just before the parting shot, maybe for him, in terms of the TCC and other mandatory requirements from our area, where I sit, they are not normally required at the tendering stage, maybe for the successful bidders, but that's just because of some learnings that we had in the past. Because when you have these tenders having region, we have certain regions we don't have the tax compliance certificate. Like Malawi, you have a tax clearance certificate. So to address that, you put them maybe at the, but also at the same time, doesn't mean that you're not, as a bidder, you're supposed also to be thorough to ensure that those things are adhered to. For the panel, maybe just change is the only constant thing. So we are not saying we are perfect from where I'm sitting. There are things we are still learning, even from the private sector, because the public procurement regulations are very thorough, and we learn every day from that. For the Ministry of Health, just to say something about the success stories. You remember when COVID started, we used to have large truck lines in terms of the traffic from the border in Malaba to over 30 kilometers.
Yes.
And they were able to address that in terms of vaccinating, because they could not be allowed to get into Uganda.
Yes.
And that's something good. Also, just the stigma.
Yes.
When COVID started and the vaccine were here, we were told, oh, vaccine will make you be, and for them just to be able to address that and us being vaccinated is a good thing. I went to Djibouti last month, and they were surprised that I've been have the 3 vaccinations, and that's a good thing, because there is when we are rolling it out, because the acceptance was not there. So that's a good thing. For maybe the liaison group, thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope it's just a start for many to come.
Definitely.
And we hope to have this conversation.
Asante.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rodney. So finally, MD, in your parting shot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael. For me, I really like the passion. I like the energy in the room. I like what I'm getting from the floor. And I think our mission at Liaison Group is to make sure that supply chain finds a seat in the C-suite. We want to make sure that this particular professional is actually recognized in decision making in any organization, including government. So this is a start, and we are going to engage with yourselves. We are going to make sure that this happens, because the only way to grow is to cut waste, and the best way to cut waste is to create efficiencies through the supply of goods and services. And that's why we have that title there, positioning supply chain to catalyze economic growth. So we will work with you, and we shall make sure that we see the success of this sooner than later.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, and see you next time.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our engagement forum. Before I hand over the stage, I would like to mention that where you're seated, there is a bag with something that looks like it will help you with the weather we are experiencing. That is yours. It was not for Serena. So please feel free to go with that at home. And there's also a notebook and a pen as our asantes for you for being part of this engagement forum. And then now it's my opportunity to exit here and ask. Oh yes, there was something. Yeah. There's a photo to be taken, I think, with the panelists, and then after that I will invite Brian for his vote of thanks. So if you let me just. You could have alternated them. That's fine. That's fine. Yes. Thank you very much. So Brian, vote of thanks as we close.
Thank you very much, Michael. You know, when you come at the last, the tail end, you must be very brave, short and precise. I must say that this is a team that has really wowed me. It is quite rare to see a disciplined people sitting down for all those hours without moving out. So because of that, I think we should actually applaud ourselves. Thank you very much. Other forums, you will see people actually by the end of the session, we almost have of the participants. So thank you very much. That shows this profession called supply chain is a disciplined one. It is one actually which is run efficiently and quite effective. Thank you very much. I'm proud of you. Secondly, I would like to thank our chairman, John, who has left. And I think it is a privilege to have someone of that stature coming to this place to speak to us. And we are very grateful. So pass our regards. And we can confirm that liaison will be part and parcel of that institution. With the permission of our MD, I think this event will be on annual basis so that now we can have a synergy, we can have a partnership to grow the industry. Secondly, I could like to, of course, pledge my loyalty by thanking our MD so that now I can be retained at liaison without saying that. So thank you very much, Bwana MD. I think with your leadership, we are here because of your leadership. Thank you very much, and we pray that may you continue leading liaison group to the greater heights. From trademark, we speak one language. We are in private sector. And thank you very much, because whatever you do, you have married technology plus the rules. And that way you are able actually to achieve a lot, and you have educated all of us. For the professionals who are here from the supply chain, we are told that it is not procurement, it is supply chain. So thank you very much, professionals. Without you, I can tell you, we could have been very disappointed. Sometimes, you know, when you do a party and then there is no one to come, you go home quite disappointed. Thank you very much, and we are honored, and we are equally proud of you. Daktari, pass our special gratitude to Madam CS. Will be part and parcel of the transformation in health ministry. We'll ensure that we build that synergy to take the ministry to the higher level, so that not only do we conform to the rules, but also we transform. Bwana MC, you have done very well. Now you can have a cup of tea. I know you have not had. Also, I think the MD will extend lunch for you. You can still remain behind so that we can have lunch. To the able Frida, you have done very well. planning this thing is not easy. I think you and your team, you have done very well. You know, sometimes speaking to people and telling people, please confirm, see easy. It's like courtship. You can tell, men can tell you it's not easy to marry one. So thanks very much for getting all this team in this forum. And I've learned something, which is a parting shot, is that for all of us who are in procurement, there are many rules and laws which are there, but the guiding principle is just only one. Use the knowledge that you have acquired, but overall, may the wisdom guide the process. I think we learned something from the lady Monica, who came from Kenya Power. So that wisdom is the ultimate thing that will change the process that we are going to face. Lastly, is to thank my colleagues who have created the occasion. Thank you very much for creating the occasion and be part and parcel of this. And I speak like a bishop. Serena Hotel, the breakfast was good. We'll be part and parcel of you. And most of our functions actually are held here. So maybe next time they will extend a credit to you. Thank you very much. You may enjoy yourselves. We still have some snacks. Please remain behind and ensure that it's already fully paid. Serena, am I right? It's fully paid, so ensure that you can take some snacks. And next time, we'll see if we can extend lunch, if actually we can have a lot of discussion. Thank you very much. See you next year, same place. God bless you. Enjoy your lunch and enjoy the rest of the day. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Madam Yvonne, thank you very much, the procurement team from Liaison. All these things actually, there is something that we learn in Liaison called LPO. You know, when we are still a small company, I took one LPO. But I can tell you, Liaison is run in an effective and modern way of doing business. So some of you actually, we can actually exchange some notes. And I think, Yvonne, you will exchange some of the numbers here so that now we can better our company. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day. So that now we can better our company. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.
Things have been discussed and many learnings, and there is a commitment from the industry and all of us to make this a better experience, just not only for the organizations we work for, but also for our customers and partners. We pray that the things that need to be done to improve where there are areas of improvement will be done. We pray for the things that have worked, that they may continue to be fostered and encouraged. And we ask that everyone who is here, who's been part of this engagement, will give their absolute best and will support one another. And we will also get the message out. There is a lot to be learned from the opportunities and the approach that is being taken, especially by the body that is in charge of the market industry. And so help us to get this message out so that we can be able to be part of the change that we need to see. We pray for the institutions represented here and the employees, that even as we go back to our stations and our routine jobs, we'll be able to now catch up with where we should be in the course of the remaining hours of the day. And we pray for each one of us that we will be also committed towards nation building and doing our very best to see this country succeed. We give you thanks and we bless you in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So go well. We will see you at the next forum. Thank you very much for coming.